The biggest question I get asked by new collectors is, should I buy singles or should I buy sealed? Now, this question has become a bit of a talking point, and it's a really interesting discussion because if we spoke about this 10 years ago, sealed wouldn't have even been in the discussion for 99% of collectors. However, now sealed literally has its own category when it comes to collecting and investing in collectibles and the like. Now, I'm making this video for two reasons. One, to give you my opinions, and two, explain some of the history of collectibles, and I suppose it's to get you in the mind frame of how to think about purchasing your collectibles. One change that's taken place is that Pokemon cards are not affordable like things to collect anymore. I mean, I remember when we had a local game store here as a kid, I'd just always be asking my mum to buy me a pack of Pokemon cards. Every time we were in the shopping center, I said, "Mum, I want a pack of Pokemon cards," and that cost her $4 Australian, which is a little less than $3 per booster pack. Though if we look at the price of modern sealed packs now, if you're lucky to find it in a retail store, well, okay, you can get it for a good price, but really, a lot of people have to buy it for much inflated markups. The point I'm trying to get here is that you should definitely be strategic when you buy Pokemon cards now, and it's not something that I personally wouldn't just be spending my money haphazardly. And also, just because of the size of my audience, and there's a lot of you watching, I just want to say, you do want to be a little bit mindful without just kind of telling yourself, hey, this is just a hobby, man. Oh, I got to enjoy this. This is just good vibes. You got to be a bit careful because the hobby has become a little bit more insidious with how expensive it's become. So that mindset where, oh, it's just a hobby, it's just like people, all this about Pokemon cards and this, that, you kind of have to separate that and not get too emotionally tied to that concept. The reason I'm telling you that is because the price rises that collectibles have seen within the last 2-3 years has been astronomical. And I don't think the thought process of, oh, it's just a hobby, I'm having fun, have caught up with, wow, you can really spend a lot of money and get yourself in a lot of problems if you're not being strategic. And that's why, with all of you watching now, you really have to say, if you're going to be buying products, yes, it's fun to open packs. Yes, it's fun to build collections and all that, but you do want to at least be a bit strategic that if you're going to be spending $400, $500, $600, which a lot of people are doing right now because that's the price of collectibles, then you do also want to have a mindset, well, if I decided or if I had to sell these cards one day, would I at least be getting some of that money back? Or maybe, if I'm lucky, would have the cards gone up in price? The hobby has just gotten too expensive. And when you're looking at the price of some sealed booster boxes, you definitely could buy a new Nintendo Switch 2, or even for some crazier ones, a PS5 Pro. And with that kind of money, yeah, you do need to be asking a lot of questions, and that's what this video will answer. Now, the answer around this is a little bit complex because it's important to understand the differences and not just buy the products. And what I mean by is the way collectors view them. Chase cards and singles are seen as the trophies of the set, and essentially they're what everyone wants when opening a pack, whereas sealed are seen as a bit more of a what if. The reason sealed is so highly sought after is because the fact it does eventually run out, and something that you need to understand is that a sealed product is a collectible in and that of itself. This is really important, and a lot of people miss this critical detail because even if you look at an Evolving Skies booster box, and even if you did pull multiple expensive cards from the set, depending on the cards you pull, there's a chance you couldn't even break even, right? And that's not because of the cards. It's actually because the sealed booster box is the collectible, just like any PSA 10 card and so forth. So when you're looking at sealed today, rather than focusing so heavily on, oh, maybe I can open this set in the future and pull a chase card, is it going to be worth it? More look at that sealed product as the actual final collectible. Once the sealed product is officially out of print and then the item has left most stores and it's not being restocked anywhere, then it essentially becomes a discontinued item. And then as the months and the years go on, every passing day, less and less of that sealed product remain in its original form, and then the prices continue to climb, and then collectors want it in its original form. By the way, hey, if you do enjoy content around Pokemon cards and collectibles, feel free to subscribe to the channel. My name's Phil, and I create heaps of content around Pokemon cards and collectibles. Honestly, I love interacting with all the new subscribers, so definitely cool to see you on board. Now, you're gonna laugh at me, but the way I really understand this concept, and I apply a lot to my work today, is by playing a lot of RuneScape as a kid, okay? Because RuneScape, and if you played RuneScape as a kid, you're gonna know this, but it did have discontinued items, okay? And that was your party hats, your Halloween masks, your Santa hats, okay? Now, because these were discontinued, these were abundant, and in the game, they only released during a certain period, and when they released, and then never were they released again. And every day, as the years went on, someone would forget their account details, someone would accidentally sell it to a general store, something would happen, and less were in population, and because of that, those discontinued items, even in RuneScape today, are super expensive in the original RuneScape. Now, that is pretty insane to think about, but I apply the same rationale with sealed as well. That's exactly how it works. Now, if you think that everyone's just gonna keep their sealed always locked up indefinitely, it's not the case, because especially now with how popular opening packs are, people love seeing booster packs opened and booster boxes opened, and for streaming and for content. There is a constant market of viewers who just want to see products be opened along with they want to open them themselves. Now, also, while we're on this discussion, because the hobby is changing so much and there's always a heap of new tools coming about, I do want to talk about today's video sponsor, Double Hollow. Now, at its core, Double Hollow is a Pokemon marketplace with very competitive fees at just 4.9%. Now, obviously, this makes a huge difference when you're buying and selling regularly. Now, one issue that comes up, especially with modern collecting, is deciding whether or not a booster pack is actually worth opening. Well, there's actually a very unique premium tool known as Pack Value, which really assists with this. Here it actually shows you the expected value, or the EV, of what you're likely to pull from a particular set, and then it compares it directly to the current price of the booster pack. Another really cool premium feature is the AI pick section. Now, knowing which cards to buy can be difficult, though this actually gives you the top 10 cards to look out for versus the top 10 cards to avoid. Now, what's so cool, if you do want to try out any of these premium features on Double Hollow, you can actually get a 30% discount off your first month by using my code on screen. All the details are in the video's description. A big thanks to Double Hollow for supporting the channel, and let's get back into this video. Though the area I want to talk about is the condition risk and issues later down the line. So this is an interesting kind of concept, and a lot of people buy sealed product and they think, oh yeah, I bought the sealed product, it's good. In a few years, I'm just gonna sell it easy. Though there is something that happens, and I'll talk about singles in just a second, but I just wanna get this covered with sealed, okay? Sealed is good, though what happens with sealed, especially as it starts getting later in its life cycle, is that the risk or the tolerance of what people think is legitimate gets a little bit weaker. Now, obviously, the hobby is plagued with issues. We have packs getting resealed, people are more clever with it, there's pack scanning, there's all these risks that are around, okay? So yes, it is true that sealed products, based on history, do rise a lot and they do go up very quickly, but there is a bit of a risk profile here. If you do not have an established feedback score, whether it's on eBay or a selling platform, or if you don't have, maybe you have a social media that you're working on, but if you don't have those things and you're just buying this and you're not working on your eBay feedback score and you have no reputation in the market, trust me, your sealed is not gonna fly off shelves. I buy Pokemon products, but I so rarely will buy a sealed product, especially an older one. With modern, I'm a bit more lenient on it because I get that there's ways people can source it, but with older products, if you do not have any reputation in the market, I will not buy that. No way. And I know a lot of people share that same sentiment, okay? So that is something to consider. So if you are actually loading up on all this sealed product and you're doing this and all that, and prices do go to those banana levels, you also do need to think about your online kind of, like your feedback score, like how reputable you are in the market. Because when it comes to selling it, it's not that easy. In terms of singles though, this is where I feel the risk is a little bit less. Yes, there's fake singles. Yes, there's fake slabs. So that is something to consider as well, because a lot of people think of now and they think of their collections going up, but when it comes to sell, like I said, you do need to be thinking of that. And for an example, if I wanted to sell something, or if I had some of my sealed product that I wanted to sell, I'd probably have an easier time doing that, okay? But that's obviously because of this channel, I've got all of you guys watching, you'd be like, yeah, I trust Phil, I got it, man, like no stress. But if you're not in that position, which a lot of people probably aren't, how on earth are you gonna be able to just sell that easily? It is something you need to consider, and that's why it is a bit more nuanced, than you do need to think about that. And that's why when we're talking about the liquidity of these items, it also gets a little bit more complicated, okay? Because when they start going to those higher prices, each time a new price market is established and you get new kind of problems, right? There's a very famous saying, new levels bring new devils, okay? And that's what it's like as the prices go higher. You're not exactly, the people that you're dealing with when you're selling a 1.5K booster box or a $2,000 booster box, they're gonna question. They're not gonna, you're gonna have to do a lot more negotiating to sell that product. With singles, especially if you do have a good paper trail where it's bought, or if you graded it yourself and there's good things about it, they are a bit, I find singles, especially graded slabs, much easier to purchase personally, and I think they're much easier to sell as well. I do think in terms of liquidity, if you don't really have much of a reputation online, or if you don't have a feedback score, I really think that singles and graded do win in this department by a long shot. Because like I said, sealed, I would not be buying that off anyone unless they have a really good feedback score. Now, another question that's really important, and everyone wants to know it, is long-term growth. Now, in this area, I can only speak about what we've seen so far. So from what we've seen so far, sealed products tend to be a little bit more predictable. If we look at any previously sealed product, they seem to follow a little bit more of a predictable pattern than singles. Singles are a little bit more volatile. The thing about sealed product as well, which is really important, is they have a base point in the market. There's obviously retail price. Now, obviously it can go below retail price, but at some point it has that base point where it says, hey, this is just the floor of it. Singles, totally driven by like the market. There's no retail price on any singles. It's what the market decides. So there is that little bit thing there. In terms of long-term growth, I know sealed is much more consistent. I've got a lot of sealed product. I've seen a lot of sealed product go up, but in terms of my perspective, singles, if you buy the right singles and if you really learn Pokemon and you learn all that, they can really grow too. And the funniest thing about singles, and this is just from my own experience, every card that I've bought that I absolutely love and I'm an absolute fan of have gone up tremendously. It's if I ever try to buy a single because I think, oh, it's gonna go up in price, I never, ever, I don't even know if I've had any results in that. Everything I've bought personally that I love has seen really strong growth. And that is probably a little cool thing as well. Buy what you love and it's really important. I personally, and my thing about it is I usually buy 1 or 2 booster boxes, especially recently on release. That's pretty much my threshold. Very rarely, I haven't in years bought 3, okay? That's probably since like, I'm talking like Crown Zenith days, okay? I usually buy 1 or 2 booster boxes, right? In terms of singles, I personally love my singles and my graded slabs because to me, that is the final level. That is what everyone is hunting when they open the sealed product. To me, that is my favorite part. I love seeing the artworks. Sealed for me is more like I love the having that piece of history, if that makes sense. Whereas with singles, to me, it's like, wow, I've actually got what everyone is opening these packs for. So that's my personal take on it. Now, let's talk about a key area, which is storage, okay? And essentially how much space a lot of these products take. This is actually a big area and the real estate of sealed does get very cumbersome, okay? You do need a lot of space if you're gonna be buying a lot of sealed. Singles are cool because for a small amount of space in your home, you can hold a lot of value, okay? So with graded slabs, you can hold an incredible amount of value that don't take up much space, but even if you've got a binder and you fill that binder up with crazy products, you can store an insane amount of value in a very small part of your home. Whereas with sealed, as you all know, if you do collect sealed, it starts taking up a lot of space, especially elite trainer boxes or ultra premium collections and things like that. They are quite like big and bulky to store. So that is also something to consider as well. But the answer about all of this is you should clearly have both. I prefer singles, like I said, because they are the trophies of what you can get. But I also do keep sealed as a bit of a keepsake from that era. Though due to the space of how much they take, it does get a little bit difficult as well. But also just try things out yourself. You know, the thing is when it comes to Pokemon, it's very important to be strategic. And the key to getting up to speed with what's happening in the world of Pokemon is key. However, there's a few questions right now surrounding the price of the hobby. And a common question right now is, oh, Phil, what would you actually spend your money on? Well, I actually reveal how I'd spend $500 in the current Pokemon market in this video on screen here. Within this video on screen, I go over how I'd spend $500 right now. If you really love this video, I appreciate you watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and then you can watch that next video. Appreciate you watching.